The most simplest purpose that every single person has is to experience.
You were first a spirit before you became a flesh.
You have to be in a position where you pause and you accept there is the possibility and ability to change.
A lot of us are living with our lives without vision.
It really does start with looking inward, because ego is important for achievement. Don't be afraid to make decisions that align to who you are more succinctly.
The future that you're looking at is what you're doing right now.
You have a responsibility to be the best version of yourself that you can be. We have to lead by example. We have to never be afraid to profess and continue and express your faith. Never.
Hey, thank you for tuning in, and this is part 2 of this full episode. So if you haven't seen part 1, make sure you watch part 1 so that you can get the full gist, because trust me, you know we always give you good. Trust me, you need to see part 1 to get the full context of what we are discussing. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and give us a comment. Tell us your eureka moment. Tell us the insights that you gained from this podcast, and tell us who you'd like to see on the podcast, and we'll make it happen. Thank you for tuning in, and this is the Mountain of Influence. God bless you. Amazing. Wow. So it all begins with authenticity.
100%.
Because you can only do so much from a depth of knowing.
Exactly.
That is how you can put your own unique signature and bring something new that the world has never seen.
100%.
Which is why our fingerprints are different.
Come on.
My God. Come on now. It all links. I've been doing a research, currently, and, it's just been mind-blowing. And, my research has just been based on the fact that we all grow up seeking one thing. What is my purpose? I don't think there's any human on earth that does not wake up to ask that question. What on earth am I? You just wake up one morning and you're just wondering, like, okay, what am I doing? Okay, what did I come to earth to do? And, I began to ask questions about the fact that, look, this psychological phenomenon of tabula rasa that says everybody is born with a blank slate. And then you have to, the environment now is now the one that informs what you put on the inside. Then I'm like, so why did God tell Jeremiah in Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5, before I formed you, I knew you? Why did he say in Romans chapter 8 verse 29, for those he foreknew, he did predestinate? Like, it doesn't add up.
It doesn't.
It doesn't add up. Which is why we all now grow up looking for purpose, when the purpose actually, you were wired with it from the foundations of the earth. Before 100%. I formed you, I knew you. I ordained you a prophet in the nation. I ordained you a king. I ordained you a minstrel. I ordained you a preacher. I ordained you a contractor. I ordained you a speaker.
Come on.
Can we just speak to the heart of this matter of purpose? Because that is what you have just really landed on right now. Can we begin to have this introspective, if everybody can just have this gift of reflection, because it has helped me a lot. And reflection is something that came to me as like a cherry on top, based on my becoming a social worker, because that's the actual tool of social work, reflection. But I've just gotten deeper and deeper in reflection, and it's mind blowing. It's a remarkable gift. It's a remarkable gift. It's a remarkable skill to have. And just marrying that, tabula rasa, and understanding that, look, of course, so now doing a deeper research, I found out that, okay, yes, a lot of that connotation of this is why this was why tabula rasa came into effect, was because they were trying to help people to stop being superstitious, to not over spiritualize things. But let's pause there. You were first a spirit before you became a flesh, before you became a soul, before you became a mind. We are going to go by the scriptures. So can we now, because like you said, it's more of a spirit thing.
This is it.
It is a spirit DNA thing.
100%. 100%. It is. And I think this is really important to understand, because once you remember that you remember, in other words, you are reassimilating, putting together again what was once known, then you understand that it's not just we're a blank slate. We have come from a source, from a knowing beforehand. We have to understand this. And so if you're in a position where you're not understanding, that may be the missing thing that you have in your life that is causing you not to excel or move forward, because that makes you a bit soulless. And some people may be comfortable with that, and that's
okay.
That's their journey, and that's their journey. But my journey is not that. I'm spirit led 100%. You're spirit led 100%, because we have to understand that, like you said, it was wired in us. It's spirit led. It's spirit DNA. It's different. So, I mean, even with the purpose factor, like, it's an interesting thing. And, at the base of it, let's say we are sitting outside of a certain space. The most simplest purpose that every single person has is to experience. We do that by default, is to experience. So then the question is, based on what I feel, and this is where it gets contentious for others, but not for us, based on what I feel innately, how do I want to experience my life? This is where we get into the, reflective intelligence that you're talking about. We can start to unpack it. What do I like? What don't I like? What am I willing to compromise? What has my life told me in terms of how I've made my decisions? Do I agree with that? Don't I agree with it? Okay, ideally, how would I like to move forward in my life? Who influences me? All of these different questions. This is, I'm not sure when this podcast will be released, but without revealing the time, there's always going to be a specific point in our lives where we consistently reflect and review, and we ask similar questions. Take the time to seriously consider these questions and answer them fully and genuinely and authentically and sincerely, so that you get to a point of satiation and you understand, hey, do you know what? Let me give this a shot. Let me try this. I am taking my life serious. I'm taking it because this was loaned to me. I'm taking it seriously. It's different. As opposed to just flailing and, waffling through life like it was some sort of, but nah, we shouldn't do that. Take it serious.
Wow, that's profound. And, I'm going to latch on that, on, taking your life serious, because still drawing from the research that I was doing, and I was like, look, people would only pay attention. Babies actually come with intelligence. They came with intelligentsia that we somehow in the environment, we pile a lot of things that are earth related on it, and it goes to the back burner. And then it becomes something that goes into oblivion. And some people would never find it in their lifetime. And then they live a life of pillar to post. I don't know what on earth I came from, but it was ingrained right there in your spirit. So, talking about taking your life serious, somebody is saying, well, I've made some silly decisions. And you mentioned something about silly decisions. not being held, not allowing yourself to be held by silly decisions. Can we unpack that? Because somebody's out there like, I've gone too far. I don't think there's anything I can do about that. Bro, sis, there's
Yes,
something you can do about that. And Michael is going to
100%.
tell us.
100%. So the reality is, yeah, we always have choice. Always. You know, there was something that someone called Viktor Frankl once said. He was a neuropsychologist in the concentration camps of Nazi Germany. And he basically said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And within that space is our power to decide. Our power to decide. So what he's essentially saying is, irrespective of how we feel, we always have the opportunity to make a decision. So in coaching, there is something known as the 7 steps of the Proshaka change model. And step 4 talks about the willingness for the coachee to change. If you don't have willingness, if you don't give yourself the opportunity, then you're correct. You won't change. It's done. You know, he who says you can and he who says he can't are both right, as Henry Ford once said.
As a man
So-
can get in his art so easy.
So is he, exactly. And so the reality of the situation is, yes, you're correct if you have that mindset being the established set of attitudes. But if your attitude is different, then what you're saying is you have the willingness to change. And so in order to be in the seat of willingness, you have to take small steps. So, you know, if we're thinking, this is the project manager in me or the program manager in me, you know, if we're thinking about the project life cycle, you have scoping or discovery, you have planning, you have delivery or implementation, and you have transition or close. The beginning part is scoping / discovery. This is where you reflect back on the decisions you've made and understand why you've made those decisions. And think to yourself, what can I do to make a difference, make a change moving forward? You have to do that reflection piece. You can't rush that. There's no time scale to that. You have to take your time. Once you're at a space of understanding, this is where my original philosophy came from, understand, reach, expand. You then move into a state of planning. Now I know this, I understand why I've made decisions, all of this kind of stuff there. What plan do I need to take to get me from A to B? And so this is looking at what's happened before, what you want, and filling that gap. Once you've done that, you then want to move into a space of implementation and delivery. So this is where you're actioning that plan. A plan is just a sequence of steps. A strategy is the approach you take. So the implementation is the doing element. So this is where you have to create a space and environment of accountability. This could be your community, whether this is church or something else. This could be a coach, a mentor. This could be an accountability buddy. This could be your partner, your friend. Be in the seat of accountability and regularly review what you've done. Regularly. Because again, this is about the seriousness aspect. If you have someone else there who is holding you to account, you are more likely to do it whether you feel like it or not. But eventually the feeling will come. And so we can't just rely on, see, it's interesting. I have to be very careful what I say here. I said I felt the ability to move, but that wasn't just a feeling. That was an inspired intuition. It's a bit different. But sometimes we feel like we don't want to do anything. But what do you actually want from your life? It's not always about your feelings in that way. You have to be above, be beyond. And so this is where accountability comes into play. And then based on your results, you check to see how you've done. And I want to just talk about one quick model that relates to this. There's something known as the success cycle. And it basically says that when you take action, you get results. And when you get results, you get some level of belief. And that belief then instills your potential. So let's say, for example, I do something, I get bad results. And then essentially I have this belief of a lack of self-worth and self, and then my potential is low. So what you want to do is, this is why we do what you said, the deep reflection, so that when we start taking actions and we start getting results, we start embedding this belief so that our potential grows, and then it becomes a cycle. So you have to be in a position where you pause and you accept there is the possibility and ability to change. If you don't accept that from the beginning, you're right. There is no change. There is no change.
Wow. Wow, that was a whole coaching session. Please ask for Michael's account number. No, send it to me, then I would forward accordingly.
Come on, yeah,
But
of course, man.
I think this is just I think this has just been an amazing conversation, because I think this is what happens when two coaches sit together and have
Come on.
this kind of conversation, because just the deep is calling onto the deep, and
Yes.
just bringing out a whole lot of value. Because I mean, come on now, that was just mind blowing. Like, for anybody that is listening to this right now, you need to take notes and begin to tick off the action. Because if you've decided not to make a decision to move, it's still a decision.
Come on.
He who fails to plan has already planned to fail. No plan in itself is a plan. A no
100%.
decision itself is a decision.
100%.
So what is it going to be, really? What is it going to be? Wow. That was so deep. So now, you said something about you were humbled while you were paying off those loans, or you were working behind the scene. Humbled, but working behind the scenes. And now bringing it forward to what you said about sometimes you just feel like, I don't feel like doing it, I don't want to do it. We are emotional beings. As much as we are emotional beings, how can we channel our emotions to actually propel us forward instead of dragging us back? Because you just stated the different ways in which you can actually use your emotion as a catapult, as a trigger, as a board, as a springboard that helps you to go to the next level, or that helps you to just stay at the same spot for years. Right now, the story of the man at the pool called Bethsaida just came to my mind. The man that was lame in the feet or something like that for 34 or 38 years. And Jesus came to him and said, "Will thou be made whole?" And he started a story. Every time I want to go to the water, somebody gets there before me. And it's been the same circle. Why are you so emotional about this thing? Why are you emotional about it? They're asking you, what do you want right now? You are talking about how it didn't work yesterday, how it didn't work for 34, 38 years. Can you drop how it didn't work? What do you want to do going forward? What do you want to do going forward? So can we, how do we get to that? I am humbled, but I will work behind the scene. You have a social media following, everybody knows you as this, but in your Noah, in your heart of hearts, there is work that needs to be done. How do we get to that humbled state where we can actually do the work that makes us, like the Bible says, study to show yourself approved, the workman that needeth not to be ashamed? How do we actually show up in the marketplace as people that are of the kingdom? Because the kingdom of God is the kingdom of excellence.
Come on.
There is no mediocrity here. How do we humble ourselves to actually become, to go through that metamorphosis? To go, because, oh my God, imagine somebody that has the potential to become a butterfly, but you are still in the larva stage.
Hey, Shay.
Or you are still a pupa. How do you humble yourself and accept that you are currently a pupa and do the work it requires to actually ascend? And like my pro coach DDK would always say, what is your vision of transcendence?
Come on.
What is your vision? Because a lot of us are living with our lives without vision. Our vision is not, I want to build this. A lot of us don't have vision. You know, so all of this, everything I'm saying is just stemming from what you said about you were humbled, but you were working behind the scenes, and you did not allow your emotions to dictate to you whether to stay back. That emotion, you use the same emotion to propel yourself forward.
Come on.
So,
Yeah.
I mean,
So I guess for me, when I think of emotion, it's energy in motion, as they say. So how did I want to use that energy in motion? Now I needed to think to myself, and it's coming back to what I said about audacious authenticity. What is the brutal truth? And so in this, let's say, for example, we're using business as an example. Okay. What is my metric for success for business? If it's to get engagement and blah, 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 and all this stuff, okay, cool, tick. But are you getting paid? Are you getting paid? Because if that is your metric and you're not getting paid, humble yourself, my friend. You have to. Because you're moving from a foundation of sticks. It's not solid. And so with that in mind, there has to be what I call routine, intelligence, and willpower. What routines do I need to embed? How do I use the environment to infer information to make decisions? That's intelligence. And how am I exerting my will? What motivates me to do those different things? And so there's a number of things. The first thing is, yes, reflection, introspective, all of that stuff there. The second thing is, do you have any devices that get you into the mood? Sometimes we just say, well, I'm in this mood. For me, it's music, my friend. It's music. Sometimes I'll just play, some music, get me in the mood, and I'm just working like clockwork. It's just flowing. Maybe it is people. Maybe there is a certain person. It could be a friend. It could be a wife or husband. It could be a coach-like figure, somebody who imbues that into you and has that serious conversation. But if you don't position these things in a way where your emotions can be managed, or at least if you don't position yourself where you don't take the right sort of action, then it can never work. But it starts with, again, and I can't say this was me. This has come from what you said. It really does start with looking inward. I'm telling you, you have to do that because that's the only way you can be humbled. If we think about the opposite of humility, we think of ego. Okay. Your chest is high, your shoulders are high. What's that going to do? You're just a target. So why don't you strategically just humble yourself a bit more? It doesn't mean you're not confident. You can still be confident and humble. It's fine. Or humbly confident. That's all good. But you should tell yourself
confidence.
The world
I like
is
that.
not ready. You know what I'm saying? The world is not ready yet to see this ego level yet. Because ego is important for achievement. But too much ego means achievement and more. We don't want the extra bits. We just want it for focus and achievement. So you have to be in a position where you have the right conversations with yourself, you have the right conversations with people, and you're very real about the results that you're having, and you don't get out of that seat of humility until you start reaping those results. It's that simple. It's that simple.
Amazing. So, on the Mountains of Influence podcast, we try to go as deep as possible. And, someone is out there and they're facing this challenge, so you are a contractor, so you're more like a middleman kind of stuff. Like you bring in people to execute stuff, project management, spearheading, projects and stuff like that. How do you bring your kingdom values, your Christian values to bear, and shine the light and stand out and be different and let everybody know? You understand? Without the Christianese, because I think that's where a lot of people miss it. You know,
Yes, I
how
hear
can
you.
you shine your light and just show up and then they know there's something different? And when they open you up, it's Jesus that they
Mm,
find inside.
I hear you. I hear you. It's a great question. And I think it is making sure that I am exceptional. It's that simple. Like, I have to understand very quickly, how does the market define value?
Hmm.
So if I understand how they define value, then I can speak the language of value. So
Hmm.
this looks like being a professional at all times, knowing how to communicate with individuals informally and formally,
Hmm.
making sure that my emotional intelligence and social intelligence is top tier, making sure that my approach to project delivery and my methodologies are on point,
Hmm.
making sure that I don't submit anything unless I know it is at the highest standard and quality, and
Hmm.
making sure that I have other people who vouch for me when I'm
Hmm.
doing this stuff. So then
Hmm.
they're like, there's something about this guy. You know,
Hmm.
there's a metric that I have usually when I start any contract or consulting gig.
Hmm.
And if in the first 4 weeks I hear from a director or someone like that who says, yeah, I've heard really good things about you, or yeah, you're doing a great job, or X, Y, and Z, without me even asking,
Hmm.
I already know that I'm embedding those Christianese values
Hmm.
into the space. I know it. And this happens
Hmm.
again and again and again and again.
Hmm.
And so for me, it's about understanding what value means to marketplace and applying that in order to make sure that I'm working integrally
Hmm.
with excellence.
Hmm. Wow, amazing. So, based on your journey, there's someone young out there that is saying, like, okay, I've not yet made the mistakes that Michael has made. So,
Mhm.
what do you wish you knew when you were younger that you think would have, if you knew it, would have helped you to dominate earlier or faster?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think don't be afraid to make decisions that align to who you are more succinctly
Mm,
and clearly, if that makes sense.
mm,
And what I mean by that is, I thought I wanted to be a doctor, but I didn't really understand why I thought that.
mm,
So it's about, at that age, getting to know yourself intimately as much as possible early on,
yeah, yeah.
so that your decision making is aligned with your future self.
Mm, mm, mm,
And when I say future self, let me even be more specific. It's aligned to the highest version of your future self.
mm, mm. Amazing. And that's so beautiful because I saw an illustration on one of my coach friend status and it was just profound. That's the fact that a lot of us think of the future as something that is very, very far or that it is
Hmm.
not the same you. But the illustration was the future that you're looking at is what you're doing right now. So if you are playing away your life right now, your future self is playing away.
Come on.
If you are reading right now, your future self is reading. If you are taking professional courses, your future self, because that is where you would arrive at.
100%.
Whatever you're doing right now will determine where you will land on the map of life. It will determine
100%.
your life navigation. It will determine, that is the navigation, those are the navigational codes or whatever they call them that will get you to that place. So you just don't arrive on the scene.
Yeah, exactly.
You just
Yeah.
don't arrive on the scene. You arrive strategically, you arrive intentionally, you arrive deliberately by what you do now.
Come on.
Wow, that's profound. That's so, so profound. Wow. So, as we are even now wrapping up and, bringing this, to a close, how do you leverage spiritual intelligence in the marketplace?
Into the marketplace, it's a great thing because not everyone understands or will accept or appreciate spiritual intelligence. And the closest marker that we have to any form of spiritual intelligence is how we behave amongst each other, just as a society, as a zeitgeist, as a community. So it's ensuring that you are custodians and ambassadors of high morality, and making sure that you do simple things like be kind, be virtuous, be integral, be helpful, be someone who's charitable. Like, these things embody Christianity. They embody it, It would be great if everyone jumped on board and said, hey, I'm a Christian. But not everyone has that experience. And so the tier towards that is at least showing Christ-like elements and attitudes in order to imbue this into society. And it means that you, as the person, you have a responsibility to be the best version of yourself that you can be, to pray, to reflect, to go to church, but also read the word yourself, understand it, internalize it, interpret it, live it out, do all these different things to make sure that it just oozes out of you, because you've brought it in. Now it has to come out. It has to. And you just keep on doing that until what comes out is rich and wealthy and just powerful, And so, to me, that's how I see it works. We have to lead by example. We have to. We don't have a choice in the matter. We have to. So that would be my approach.
Yeah, you know what you just said is like, if they squeeze orange,
come on,
it's orange juice that would come out.
Come on.
If they crush the carrots, it's carrot juice that would come out. So you as a person, when they squeeze you, will you be oozing the Holy Ghost, or will you be oozing the blood of Jesus? Will you be oozing the word of God? Come on now. My God, that was a brilliant illustration, because as you were saying, that picture just came into my mind. Like, wow, now that's profound. That's profound. So, let's now bring it to Bible. We've mentioned a couple of scriptures, but who in the scripture would you say is your forerunner, is your patriarch? Like, who was on this mountain that was there? Like, let's say, is there a contractor in the biblical realm, or somebody in the Bible that you model after? And then, of course, who in our contemporary, realm would you say also mirrors somebody that you follow?
There's a number. I'm torn between Noah, Abraham, or Moses. But I think I'm going to go with Noah because of the task that he had. And he just had to trust in what God was saying. Let's think about this deeply. If you are hearing a voice that is saying the world is going to be flooded for X amount of days, so gather every beast that you can, male and female, and build a boat. What? That's
it sounds bad.
It sounds insane. It sounds insane. But then, and this is the thing, like, he trusted in what God had to say, and he prospered. Him and his loved ones prospered because of that. And God made a promise never to flood the earth again. Why is it that we are seeing historical events of something known as the winter dryas that happened 10,500 years ago that speaks of a flood? Hence why all of these things, anyway, I could go deeper, but I'm not going to. The point being made is that Noah is a great example because of how he led, even in the circumstances where he had no evidence or proof. And it worked out for him perfectly fine. And he went on to live his 969 days or whatever it is, 700 odd days or whatever.
Amazing. So is anybody on our earth realm that you can make reference to?
I'm the worst person to ask this question. Seriously, because I don't I don't usually have a person. I'll be honest.
No mentor.
I have mentors for sure, but these are
So
just online people,
online
that I lean
people.
in.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's
it's not.
interesting. You're probably the first
Yeah.
guest that did not have a mentor to say like, okay, this is my vision of transcendence, or this is my vision of who looks like where I'm headed. But that's fine. We are all on a
Do you know what it
journey.
is? I,
Yeah.
I think I think for me in my mind, because we're all so unique, no one
Mm,
truly owns what I want.
mm,
I could name people like um, Daniel Priestley or Michael Jordan. I
mm.
admire these people because of the qualities that they
Oh.
have in order to win in life.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is, I don't know. I'm just not. I'm just. It's just not me.
I
But I'm
totally get
grateful.
you. I
I'm
totally get
grateful.
you. I totally
Yeah.
get you. Wow, amazing. So now, um, someone out there is saying like, okay, I want to model the Christ-like values and all of that, but nobody around me seems to have that vibe. It's going to be a lonely journey. I don't think all my friends go to the club, all my
Mm.
friends are out partying. Is it so how, so do you have a leadership company? Do you have this a company of people that helps you to stay grounded in this value, in this kingdom walk, that helps you to know that, oh, I'm not insane. I actually am doing what is right by God. You understand? So, how do
Mm.
you find your own company in, on this kingdom walk?
Yeah. There are various different ways, and it is very hard because everyone's experience is different, and we have to acknowledge this. But for me, it has been a number of different things.
Mm,
Number one, in the church community, for sure.
mm,
Sometimes we can go to church or to a community and it doesn't always feel right, but sometimes we just need to give it time.
mm,
And
mm,
we don't respect time sometimes because we want the result now, but we don't understand why we don't have the result now. So
mm,
are you involved in some of the activities? Are you involved in the events? Are you involved in just even the whole structure of the delivery of service?
mm,
How are you involved? That's the question I'd be asking myself.
mm,
The second thing is maybe it's charitable volunteering opportunities. Like
mm,
it's not just about making money and stuff. You can still get value, whether
mm,
it's experientially, skills wise, or competencies
mm,
through volunteering, charity work. And then you meet different types of people who are like you. Because
mm,
if people are giving up their time to do something, then there must be some similarities in what you value. So there's that. There's obviously your friends and family, but it's brokering conversations with them.
mm,
It's having the opportunity to have conversations, to talk a bit deeper about some stuff that they may not talk about, to see where their mind is at. And you may
mm,
be surprised to understand that actually there is an opportunity for us to grow spiritually together, you
mm,
know? And I think if you can't find any of those things, then you have to lean on yourself to be an example, because I believe that if you lead by example, you attract examples. You just
mm,
do, because you exude something, you exude qualities that people would like for themselves, whether we
mm,
realize this or not.
mm. Amazing, amazing. So, what does the future hold for your mountain of influence, and what will be the role in the kingdom?
So for me, I can see myself continuing to grow within the consulting space
Mm,
and really grow the business coaching and programs that I have at the moment to help other people thrive in their portfolio careers.
mm,
And I think there is an opportunity for me to teach those within the church how to build their portfolio careers as well, so that they're not just sort of serving and everything else, but they're also thriving from
mm,
portfolio career that makes sense to them, within
mm,
a contract consulting
mm,
space. For me, I want to imbue people with a consulting mindset, because I truly believe that if you understand how to cultivate that, not just in your day-to-day personal life, but also in your
mm.
professional life, you are going to garner more opportunities given the change that we're having and experiencing at the moment.
Wow.
So that's where I'm leaning towards at the moment.
Mm, mm. Amazing, amazing. So, what is your legacy?
My legacy: to give people and inspire people to have the opportunity to live the life that they want to lead. That's simple.
The life that they want to lead. So now I'm going to
Lead.
tie that back to one of the very first statements that you made when you said you were raised by a single mom
Come on.
that came from a lineage of fighters. Is that an African thing?
It probably
Is that
is.
part of your legacy?
Yeah, 100%. Keep on fighting. Keep on fighting. 100%.
Wow. Wow. Who would have known?
You pointed it out, so 100%.
Wow. So one final piece of advice for fellow marketplace apostles, and where can we find you online? Because I know some people have just fallen in love with you right now and they can't wait to contact you. So fellow last message to fellow marketplace apostles, and where can we find you online?
Never be afraid to profess and continue and express your faith. Never. Never be afraid. There will be situations where people say, oh, what did you do on the weekend? Say you went to church. Say you did the church of... Say these things. Be proud of it. Because you never quite know who is in that audience and who you could inspire as well. And continue to find yourself in order for you to really live the life that you were called to live. This is why I said lead before. So those are the two things. Where can people find me? They can find me on LinkedIn. They can find me on YouTube. I've got a YouTube channel. They can find me on Instagram. And if anybody's interested, you can check out my newsletter where I talk about the consultant mindset. Release a newsletter every Sunday at 2 p.m. So that's pretty much it, really.
Wow. It's been an amazing, wholesome conversation with you, Michael. Thank you so much for coming on the Mountains of Influence podcast. And this has really marked me, and it was such a rich conversation. Thank you so much. And that is the end of this awesome video. I'm sure it was value packed for you. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel and drop your comments below. Let us know what you are taking away from this particular episode, what resonated with you, what was the aha moment for you, what questions do you have for the guest, and of course, don't forget that we have more that we have cooked for you. So share this video with your friends, with your family, with your neighbors, with everyone that you know, and let them know the Mountains of Influence podcast is changing lives, is transforming paradigms, and it is here to equip you for the work of the kingdom in the marketplace. Don't forget, Mountains of Influence podcast is for apostles in the marketplace. Stay tuned and God bless. I am Abimbola Olivide.